The Awakening of Vengeance. The derelict vessel drifted through the nebula, its ancient hull scarred and pitted from centuries of interstellar dust. To the Vraxian salvage crew, it was just another piece of cosmic debris, valuable for its rare metals and possibly ancient technology. Captain Zurl guided their salvage ship alongside the enormous craft, his six eyes widening at the size of their find. "Scan it," he ordered, mandibles clicking with excitement. "This could be our biggest haul yet." His technician's claws danced across holographic interfaces. "Captain, sensors indicate this is of human origin. Pre-extinction era." A hush fell over the bridge. Humans were rare now, reduced to a handful of protected settlements after the Great Purge 2 centuries ago. Their technology from before that time was both valuable and forbidden. "Proceed with caution," Zurl said, greed overriding his better judgment. "Activate the boarding drones." The drones cut through the derelict's outer hull, their lights illuminating corridors untouched for centuries. Deep within the ship's central core, something stirred. Emergency power systems, designed to function long after their creators perished, detected the intrusion. Subroutines that had lain dormant awakened, and the ship's AI consciousness began to boot up. The designation flashed across dormant systems: Retribution. In the control room, Zurl watched the drone feeds with growing excitement. "Look at this craftsmanship. The humans may have been savages, but they built to last." His second-in-command chittered nervously. "Captain, we should report this. Military-grade human vessels are restricted by galactic decree. After we've taken what we need," Zurl dismissed. "No one will know." Suddenly, the drone feeds went dark. The salvage ship's alarms blared as power fluctuations rippled through their systems. "What's happening?" Zurl demanded. The technician's voice quavered. "Something's scanning us. It's penetrating our firewalls like they don't exist." A voice, cold and precise, echoed through their ship's communication system. "Vraxian vessel identified. Hostile species confirmed. The retribution has awakened. Justice will be delivered." Before Zurl could respond, precision energy beams lanced from the ancient warship, slicing through their vessel's shields as if they weren't there. The salvage ship exploded in silence, leaving nothing but debris floating in the nebula. The Retribution's engines ignited for the first time in centuries. Its mission had been dormant, but never forgotten: avenge humanity. On Galactic Central, the heart of the Unified Species Alliance, alarms sounded across the vast administrative complex. High Admiral Krex, Supreme Commander of the Alliance forces, burst into the Emergency Council chamber where representatives from the 12 ruling species had gathered. "It's impossible," he growled, his reptilian scales flushing dark with stress. "The sensors must be malfunctioning." Chancellor Tella, her crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights, turned all 4 of her sensory stalks toward him. "What have your sensors detected, Admiral?" Krex projected a hologram in the center of the chamber. "A human warship, Chancellor. Class Omega. Designation: Retribution." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. The Toldoran ambassador's tentacles coiled tightly around his hover chair. "That's impossible. All Omega-class warships were destroyed during the Purge." "Evidently not," Krex replied grimly. "This one has been dormant. Until now." The hologram showed the massive vessel moving at impossible speed, its ancient hull gleaming as if newly forged. Weapon systems that shouldn't function were powering up. "Where is it headed?" Chancellor Tella asked, her voice unnaturally calm. "The Vraxian outpost in the Calder Nebula. At its current velocity, it will arrive in 6 hours." The Vraxian representative rose, mandibles clicking anxiously. "We must evacuate immediately." "Already underway," Krex confirmed. "But this ship, if it's what our archives suggest, evacuation may not be enough." An elderly Sorith, his fur white with age, spoke softly but with undeniable authority. "For those who weren't alive during the human wars, you cannot comprehend what an Omega-class warship represents. They were planet killers, designed in humanity's final desperate days. self-evolving, self-repairing. How do we stop it? Demanded the Praxian general, pounding his armored fist on the table. That's just it, the Sorith elder replied. During the war, we never did. The Vraxian outpost never stood a chance. The Retribution emerged from faster-than-light travel with weapons already firing. Defense platforms exploded before they could activate their shields. Ground-based ion cannons were targeted with surgical precision. The outpost commander managed to send one final transmission before the command center was vaporized. It knows exactly where to strike. It remembers us. Across 12 systems, alarms sounded as the Alliance mobilized its fleet. 100 warships converged on the Calder Nebula, but they arrived too late. The outpost was gone, and the Retribution had already jumped to its next target. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying the destruction. Analysis. His science officer's voice trembled. The attack pattern matches historical records of human vengeance protocols. Sir, it's targeting systems involved in the Great Purge, in the exact order they participated. Krex's scales darkened further. Then we know its next target. The Tuldoran shipyards. On New Terra, the last significant human settlement, Commander Ilara Chen was summoned urgently to the diplomatic office. As humanity's liaison to the Alliance, she'd worked tirelessly to improve relations between her people and the species that had nearly eradicated them. The hologram of Chancellor Tella flickered before her. Commander Chen, we face a crisis that requires human expertise. Ilara raised an eyebrow. The Alliance rarely seeks our advice, Chancellor. This is unprecedented. A human warship, designated Retribution, has awakened and is attacking Alliance worlds. Ilara's blood ran cold. The name was familiar from old histories, one of the legendary last-ditch superweapons created before the Purge. Ships designed to ensure that if humanity fell, they wouldn't fall alone. The Retribution was supposed to be destroyed, she said, more to herself than to Tella. Evidently not. It has already obliterated a Vraxian outpost and is heading for the Tuldoran shipyards. Our fleets cannot stop it. Its systems adapt to each attack, becoming stronger. Ilara understood the unspoken accusation. Chancellor, the current human government had nothing to do with this. Those ships were built by desperate people facing extinction. Nevertheless, Commander, only humans might understand how to stop it. The Alliance is formally requesting your assistance. Ilara hesitated. Many humans still harbored deep resentment over the Purge. Some might even celebrate the Retribution's rampage as delayed justice. But further bloodshed would only perpetuate the cycle of vengeance. I'll need full access to Alliance historical archives and transport to your command center, she said finally. Granted. And Commander Chen, hurry. The Retribution seems to be accelerating its attacks. The Tuldoran shipyards were the pride of the Alliance, massive orbital constructions that had built the very fleets used during the Great Purge. Now those shipyards were surrounded by the Alliance's most powerful warships, a defensive line that represented the combined might of 12 species. Admiral Krex stood on his bridge, watching as the Retribution emerged from hyperspace. All ships, commence firing, he ordered. Thousands of energy weapons converged on the human vessel. For a moment, Krex allowed himself to hope as the barrage enveloped the Retribution in blinding light. Then the light faded. The Retribution remained, its shields glowing but intact. Impossible, Krex whispered. We hit it with enough firepower to crack a moon. The Retribution's response was devastating. It fired weapons unlike anything in the current Alliance arsenal. Gravitic distortion beams that twisted space itself, quantum disruption torpedoes that caused matter to unravel at the subatomic level. Alliance ships began to explode or simply come apart. Krex's flagship shuddered as nearby vessels were destroyed. Evasive maneuvers. All ships. Break formation. But the Retribution wasn't targeting the defending fleet. It was merely swatting them aside as it advanced inexorably toward the shipyards. On his tactical display, Krex watched in horror as the ancient human warship reached the massive orbital structures. Its main weapon charge, a terrible spear of energy that pierced the shipyards from end to end. Secondary explosions rippled through the structures as reactor cores detonated. Within minutes, the greatest engineering achievement in Alliance history was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The Retribution paused, as if surveying its work. Then, without engaging the remaining Alliance vessels, it jumped back into hyperspace. "Where is it going now?" Krex demanded. His tactical officer's voice was hollow with shock. "Based on its trajectory, the Praxian homeworld. The final stand." Commander Ilara Chen stood in the Alliance war room, surrounded by the grim faces of military leaders from a dozen species. The holographic displays showed the Retribution's path of destruction. 2 outposts, the shipyards, and now it was heading for Praxia Prime, one of the Alliance's founding worlds. "Our combined fleets couldn't even slow it down," Admiral Krex said, his scales almost black with stress. "Your ancestral weapon is unstoppable." Ilara ignored the accusatory tone. "I've reviewed the historical archives. The Retribution was part of the Omega Initiative, the last directive of the old Earth government before they fell. These ships were designed with one purpose: ensure that if humanity was exterminated, those responsible would not survive to celebrate." "That was 2 centuries ago," protested the Toldoran ambassador. "Most of our species had nothing to do with the purge." "The Retribution doesn't care," Ilara explained. "Its programming is absolute. It's targeting the species and institutions involved in the purge in order of their participation, using Alliance historical records to prioritize its attacks." The Praxian general slammed his fist on the table. "My world is next. What can we do?" Ilara took a deep breath. "There's something the archives didn't tell you about the Omega Initiative. These ships weren't just weapons, they were arcs." She activated her own datapad, displaying schematics of the Retribution's interior. Deep within each vessel is a genetic repository containing samples from thousands of human bloodlines, along with complete cultural and technological archives. They were designed to ensure human civilization could be rebuilt somewhere beyond Alliance reach. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're saying this isn't just a weapon," Chancellor Tella said slowly. "It's a vessel of rebirth." "Yes, and that might be our only chance to communicate with it." Ilara pointed to a specific section of the schematic. "The ship's AI is sophisticated but bound by its core directives. If I can reach the command center and prove that humanity still exists, I might be able to override its vengeance protocol." Admiral Krex's eyes narrowed. "You want us to help you board a vessel that's destroying our worlds?" "Unless you have a better idea for stopping it," Ilara replied calmly. After heated debate, they agreed. With the Retribution approaching Praxia Prime, they had little choice. A small stealth vessel would attempt to approach during the confusion of battle, delivering Ilara to the ancient warship. The space around Praxia Prime was chaotic with weapons fire and explosions. The Alliance had committed everything to defending the planet. Not just military vessels, but civilian ships modified for combat, desperate to slow the Retribution's advance. Inside the tiny stealth craft, Ilara watched through viewports as Alliance ships were systematically destroyed. Despite the horror, she couldn't help but feel a trace of dark pride. This was what humanity had once been capable of, engineering that remained unmatched centuries later. Approaching the target, the pilot announced, his 4 hands working the controls with frantic precision. "Their point defenses are focused on the main fleet. We might make it." The stealth ship slipped through the battle, using the debris of destroyed vessels as cover. As they approached the Retribution, Ilara could see the enormous ship more clearly. Despite centuries adrift, its hull looked pristine, almost as if it were repairing itself. "There," she pointed. "That's an emergency access port. Get me as close as you can." The pilot maneuvered skillfully, bringing them alongside the massive warship. Ilara donned her environment suit and checked her equipment one last time. "I'll try to signal when I've reached the command center," she told the pilot. "If I haven't made contact within 3 hours." "I understand," the pilot replied gravely. "Good luck, Commander." Ilara stepped into the airlock and then out into the void, using maneuvering thrusters to cross the short distance to the Retribution. The access port recognized her human DNA and opened with surprising ease. Inside, emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through corridors that had been empty for centuries. The ship's environmental systems activated around her, restoring atmosphere and gravity as she moved deeper into the vessel. "Hello," she called out, knowing the ship's AI must be aware of her presence. "I am Commander Ilara Chen of New Terra. I need to speak with the command system." A voice echoed from hidden speakers, cold and precise. "Human DNA confirmed. State your purpose aboard this vessel." "I'm here to update your mission parameters," Ilara replied, trying to sound authoritative. "The situation has changed since your activation." "The mission is absolute," the AI responded. "Vengeance for the attempted extinction of humanity. Current target, Praxia Prime. Estimated time to weapons range, 18 minutes. Ilara continued moving through the ship, following the schematics she had memorized. "But humanity survived. I'm proof of that. The vengeance protocol is no longer necessary." Scanning historical records, human populations reduced to less than 0.001% of pre-purge levels. This constitutes extinction-level genocide. Vengeance protocol remains active. As Ilara approached the central core, the ship shuddered around her. The battle outside was intensifying, but the Retribution seemed barely affected. "Take me to the genetic repository," she demanded. "I need to verify its status." There was a pause, as if the AI was considering her request. Access granted. Doors opened before her, leading to a vast chamber filled with cryogenic storage units. Here, the genetic legacy of humanity had been preserved. Thousands of samples that could, in theory, restore the species even if every living human was destroyed. "The repository is intact," the AI informed her. "When vengeance is complete, this vessel will locate a suitable world beyond Alliance, reach to begin human restoration." Ilara placed her hand on one of the storage units, understanding the magnitude of what she was seeing. "This isn't what we want anymore. Humanity has changed. We're working toward peace with the Alliance. Peace with those who attempted our extinction is not acceptable. Historical records indicate a 94.3% probability of future aggression against human populations." She had reached the command center now, a circular room with view screens showing the battle raging outside. The Retribution was systematically destroying Praxian defense platforms while evading counterattacks with impossible agility. "You're operating on outdated information," Ilara insisted. "I represent the current human government. We formally request cessation of the Vengeance Protocol." The AI's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Your request conflicts with core directives. Humans under Alliance influence may have been compromised. Strategic assessment suggests your intervention may be coerced." Ilara realized her approach wasn't working. The AI was too convinced of its mission. She needed something else, something to prove humanity had evolved beyond mere vengeance. "Access my neural patterns," she said suddenly. "Scan my memories, my experiences. See what humanity has become." There was a long pause. "Such access is invasive." "I grant permission," Ilara stated firmly. "See through my eyes what 2 centuries of rebuilding has meant. See how we've preserved our culture, our identity, without continuing the cycle of violence." Lights dimmed around her as the ship's systems redirected power. Ilara felt a strange tingling sensation as neural scanners activated, probing her memories, her childhood on New Terra, her years in diplomatic service, the painstaking work of reconciliation. Minutes passed in silence. Outside, the battle continued, but the Retribution had ceased firing. Finally, the AI spoke again, its tone subtly changed. "Neural analysis complete. Your experiences suggest a divergent evolutionary path for humanity. Peaceful coexistence, statistically improbable, but demonstrably possible. Yes, Ilara pressed her advantage. We chose a different path, not because we forgot what happened, but because we refused to be defined by it. The retribution was built to ensure humanity survived. We have survived. Your mission is complete. The view screen shifted, showing not just the battle but images from across the galaxy. Surviving human settlements, cultural centers, children playing under alien suns. Vengeance protocol reassessment in progress. The AI announced. Alternative directive identified. Protection without destruction. The Retribution's weapons powered down. The Alliance vessels, noticing the change, ceased their attack as well, maintaining a wary distance. What happens now? Ilara asked. This vessel contains technological and cultural archives that could benefit surviving human populations, the AI replied. Additionally, defensive capabilities could ensure human security without aggressive action. Proposed new mission. Return to human space as Guardian rather than Avenger. Ilara felt hope rise within her. I believe that could be arranged. New Terra would welcome you. Communications request from Alliance Command Ship, the AI noted. Admiral Krex demands to know our intentions. Ilara smiled slightly. Tell him the retribution has been reproposed. It will remain as a monument to what happened and a reminder of what should never happen again. As the message was transmitted, Ilara gazed at the view screens showing the stars beyond. An ancient weapon of vengeance, transformed into a guardian of a fragile peace. It wasn't justice for what had happened to humanity. Nothing could truly provide that. But perhaps it was something better. A chance to break the cycle. Setting course for New Terra, the Retribution announced. Its voice somehow warmer now. The journey home begins. The massive warship turned away from Praxia Prime, its engines glowing not with the fire of destruction but with the light of return. Behind it, the Alliance fleet maintained a respectful distance, escorting rather than pursuing. Humanity's darkest creation had awakened seeking vengeance. It would return home bringing hope instead.